Every single one of us experiences pains of all kinds. We try to avoid it at all costs, but it happens. And most of us don't know how to turn that into power. Most of us allow pain and past memories to hold us back. And it's incredible what happens when you can transform, redeem, regenerate that pain into rocket fuel to build a different future. Today, I'm going to unpack really practical ways to do that. I'm very, very excited about this episode. I truly believe that this may be one of the most valuable videos you see all year. Here we go. So we all have these collections of painful memories. And there can be things that happen to us just because of circumstances that are outside of our control, like big moves, big drama in the family, for example, financial hardship, health issues. The painful memories that hurt the most tend to be relational memories: divorce, heartache, betrayal, bullying, things like that. And what happens with most of us is that we have this collection and we don't know what to do with it, so we try to heal from it. We try to be resilient and sort of succeed and flourish in spite of them. But what I want to tell you is that there's a better way. The better way is that you can actually mine those painful memories and experiences for skills, abilities, tendencies that can actually be like rocket fuel for you to build a new future. And I'm very, very excited about this video, as I said, because for me, it's very personal, right? I had a lot of trauma as a kid. My first childhood memory was literally standing outside of a concentration camp in Chile, where my dad was a prisoner. My mom was trying to pass food to him, to this guard, and there was hundreds of people held in this concentration camp, and we were refugees. We had to flee, start over. We had nothing. We ended up going to Germany, then the Soviet Union. We shared an apartment with another family. We were poor. Then we moved to Africa, also a very poor country, a little bit better life, but then there was a civil war that started like a year in. And so I changed like 4 countries by age 7. That was just really hard for me. And then after going up there and sort of stabilizing it a little bit, my parents got divorced and we had to start over in the Soviet Union. My mom wanted to go back home. I slept in the kitchen. We shared this 1-bedroom apartment with me and my sister. So there was a lot of lack, a lot of scarcity. And I had health issues as well. At some point, I was in the hospital a lot, almost died because of chronic bronchitis. I just couldn't heal. The relational piece, obviously, if you move a lot, you feel like an outsider. So I felt like an outsider a lot, right? The sort of awkward years of growing up, being a teenager, they were not easier than anybody else's. I was called, when I was in Africa, I had this hair that it was so thick, you couldn't do anything with it. So it looked like a straw hut. We saw those everywhere. So they called me that. They called me names, and I felt very inadequate. And I was starting to be interested in girls, but I was tiny. I had this horrible hair. It hurt. I still remember it so vividly. And then, of course, when we went back to the Soviet Union, everybody was Slavic, so very white, and I'm brown-skinned. I look like a foreigner. I was tiny until I grew a little bit. I had a growth spurt. The reason I tell you this is that these are just layers that everybody has. Every single one of us has pain, and very few of us can transform pain into power. But before we actually dive into how to do that, let me tell you why we need to pay more attention. We have all these archetypal stories that we love, the superheroes in American pop culture, right? Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. They all have these painful origin stories of loss and pain, and they all transform, transfuse, redeem those painful stories into power. And we love those stories because they resonate with us, but we don't use the lessons. There's a story in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, of Joseph. It's an epic story. If you haven't read it, you should read it. But Joseph is the beloved son of his father, and he has a gift, this power to interpret dreams, and that gift gets him in trouble, which actually is a good sign. That's something you can use for good. His brothers get jealous. They sell him into slavery. He ends up a slave to this guy. He gets falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit, gets thrown in jail, can't catch a break, raises through the ranks, continues to use his gift, and then he gets forgotten in jail, although he interpreted somebody's gift. Eventually, he goes from prisoner to prime minister. He stands in the throne room of the pharaoh, becomes the second in command of the most powerful nation on the planet. And what got him there, it's not just resilience. What got him there is the transformation of pain into power. And I want to give you the blueprint for that so you can interpret that in your life. If you go to the show notes of this video, there's a link to download a pain to power worksheet. And you can use that to really analyze and dissect your life. And I promise you this is going to be worth the exercise, so you can pick it up in the show notes. I've worked with, collaborated, coached some extraordinary people all over the world. And I've noticed this: every single one of them has the ability to transform painful memories, painful experiences into powerful fuel for the future. So what I want to do is I want to give you a lens through which to look at your life and give you 3 gifts that you can mine for that are actually found within your painful memories through the lens of Joseph's story, my story. You can project your story, but also through the lens of what happens to them if we just leave them alone and what happens to them when we nurture them. The first type of gift is the most obvious one, is the natural gifts, things that we do effortlessly. Joseph could interpret dreams. Naturally, he didn't have to make an effort. He didn't learn it anywhere. It's just a thing he had. And that gift got him in trouble with his brothers. That was literally the original thing that got him in trouble, destroyed his family, like put him in years and years and years of pain. He could have resented the gift. He could have ignored the gift. He could have buried the gift because it caused him years and years of agony, but he didn't. And here's the difference. The same gift that got him into trouble, got him sold into slavery, is the same gift that got him into the Pharaoh's palace and into the role of prime minister, because he nurtured the gift. So what were my natural gifts? I could sing. I had a natural tone since the age of 5. I could sing beautifully, and my parents would make me sing for their visitors, right? And eventually that sort of evolved into something. I had really thick hair that I was teased for, and then eventually things changed, and I'll tell you how. I was very flexible, right? Physically flexible and very active. So my sister was in ballet, and I remember going to class, and the ballet teacher would say, "Christian, you should be in ballet." And I was already bullied for certain things, and I didn't want to go to ballet because ballet was for girls. These are natural abilities that I had. And then when they were nurtured, they resulted in something fairly special. I started singing, and it became a massively successful singing career. I had this thick hair until I eventually figured out that I couldn't make a haircut that looked decent. And my hair has changed because of age. So now I have a shorter hair that is decent. But at the time, I couldn't do anything with it. But if I let it go long, it actually looked pretty good. Eventually, that long hair gave me an endorsement deal with Head & Shoulders and a ton of money. And people admired the hair. So it was nurtured as a gift, and it was something that helped me make a lot more money, be more recognizable, etc. And then the flexibility, the dancing sort of predisposition, eventually I did nurture it in breakdancing and in modern pop dancing. And I combined voice and looks and dance, and I became one of the top pop stars across 15 different countries. And this is just one snapshot of how a natural gift that could be dormant. It could be dormant forever. If it's nurtured in a certain way, it can give you extraordinary advantages. What's the second type of gifts? It's survival gifts. The gifts that are brought in by circumstances, right? They were born in pain. They seem even less valuable. Sometimes they're associated with shame and bad memories, embarrassment. And for Joseph, it was this gift of faithful service. He was a slave. Right? He developed this integrity with his master, his excellence, because that was the way to actually survive, right? These things were forged in hardship. Because I moved a lot and I was a refugee and we had so much hardship, it was me understanding the human condition, is trying to fit in. I escaped into my imagination, so that made me very creative. I would escape into books because I felt very lonely, and I would just lose myself in these stories, and that helped me eventually to be a better storyteller, speaker. The third type of gift that we receive during painful times is the passion gifts. It's this hunger and fire in our belly to focus on something very specific. So for Joseph, my theory is that his passion gifts were a desire to hear from God, because that was the source of his original main gift that got him into trouble, that basically sent him on this journey and eventually got him into the palace. A gift that I think he developed as a passion gift is a gift of solving difficult, complex problems. And he did it in Potiphar's house as a slave, in jail, and then eventually when he nurtured those gifts into excellence and top-level performance, he was solving famine. And a third gift, I think, is a passion gift, is this gift of understanding a broken family, a betrayal that split the family, and having a very advanced, deep sense of how to fix that and heal that. And that's exactly what he did with his extended family and also the people that lived in their land. So for me, what was it? Freedom, because I saw so much oppression. I grew up in environments that were very top-down, very oppressive. Another passion that emerged from painful experiences with my family, I come from 3 generations of broken homes, is a passion for a healthy family. I just failed at it over and over again until I developed this profound, almost like a quantum leap decision that I'm going to focus on family first. And I just celebrated 26 years of marriage. Another passion gift of mine that was sort of forged in pain was this gift of philanthropy. I grew up in places that are some of the poorest countries in the world, and I just never forgot the extreme poverty and how oppressive it is and how hopeless it is. And eventually, the minute I had any kind of agency or resources or platform, I started serving the poor. And I've never stopped. The latest project is the Ascend Academy in Africa. You can go to ascend.academy and check it out. And it's just a little project helping kids get out of poverty in Mozambique, the country I grew up in. Why am I telling you all of this? Because there's treasure right under the ground where you stand. And that treasure was forged in painful memories. And most people, the best they do is they heal, they maybe overcome the aftermath, but they don't use this treasure to propel them into the future, and you can. And I believe every archetype, every epic story that we love watching in the movies and reading in books, even the ancient stories of Joseph and Genesis, they're pointing us to this treasure, this secret that you can transform pain into power and change your future forever and stand before kings. And I want you to stand before kings. So what will you do with the things that you just heard? The stories, the archetypes, the myths, your story, my story. Every day I work with people who are doing this work. They're forging these old stories and mining them for gold to power their future. I think that's the biggest kept secret out there. And once they do, I watch them take off, and it's really amazing. So do the work, grab that worksheet from the show notes, and watch this other video that I think you're going to like. It's basically a video about going from undervalued to undeniable. You can watch it either here or here. I actually don't remember, but please enjoy it.